Hi, I'm Mitch Gallagher. Welcome to Sweetwater's Guitars and Gear. This time out, a lightweight, low-power, awesome amplifier for practice and rehearsal. Let's get started. This is the Bugera G5 Infinium amplifier, a 5-watt all-tube Class A amplifier with some very versatile features. The G5 Infinium has two channels. There's a clean channel with its own tone control, then there's a gain channel that has both gain and volume controls, as well as its own 3-band tone stack. Now, in addition to that, we have what Bugera calls a Morph control that takes us from an American-type amplifier sound to a British-type amplifier sound. The G5 Infinium puts out 5 watts of power, and it's surprisingly loud for a 5-watt amplifier. There's also a built-in attenuator so you can switch it down to 1 watt or even 1/10 of a watt for really quiet practicing. The amplifier has a line input for connecting exterior sources such as an MP3 player that you want to play along with. It also has a headphone amplifier with an emulated output so you can simulate the sound of a 1x12 cabinet or a 4x12 cabinet. You can also use that output as a line output and feed it direct into a mixer. And in fact, you can leave the amplifier on standby and still get that headphone output so you can have a silent amplifier for work on a worship stage or if you're not using live amplifiers on stage. One of the really cool things about the G5 Infinium, though, is the Infinium technology. What this does is manage your tubes. So it looks at the status of the tubes and automatically adjusts the bias and keeps them at their peak performance. So as your tubes age, it changes the bias setting so that it automatically maintains consistent tone. Bugera refers to the Infinium technology as a tube life multiplier, and in fact, they say you can expect up to 20 times the tube life out of your tubes. There's also an LED that tells you the status of the tubes, and if one of your tubes goes bad, an LED will light up telling you which one to replace. And when you replace a tube, you don't have to adjust a bias or anything, just plug the new tube in and the amplifier will set itself up for optimal performance. Let's check out the sounds in the G5 Infinium. I'm playing a Paul Reed Smith Modern Eagle 2 guitar. Now this has 5708 pickups, which are very similar to PAFs. And we're playing through a Bugera 2x12 cabinet that has turbo sound speakers. Let's begin by listening to the clean channel. Now you can switch channels using a switch on the front panel, or the amplifier actually includes a 2-switch foot switch that you can use for changing channels as well as turning the reverb on and off. I'm going to begin with the volume level set to about 9 o'clock. We'll set the tone to 12 o'clock, and I've got the reverb set to about 8 o'clock for just a little bit of warmth, a little bit of ambience. Now that reverb is referred to as a high definition reverb. It's very authentic sounding. We'll begin with the bridge pickup. That's a nice, clean, sparkling tone with a lot of headroom. You can hit it hard and it's still not going to break up. So it's going to give you those pristine cleans that you're looking for. Now we'll move the volume level up to about 12 o'clock. Now because we still have a nice amount of headroom available, the sound's going to get louder. It's not really going to get into breakup yet, even with humbucking pickups. As we increase that volume, we get a little bit more punch in the mid-range. It gets a little woollier sounding on the top end, not quite as sparkling. It's a nice, warm, clean tone with humbuckers. When we switch to single coil, it'll be nice and sparkly. Now we'll move the volume control up to about 3 o'clock. At this point, this channel is going to start to break up just a little bit. It's a nice, warm, round tube breakup. You can hear that's a really punchy, crunchy tone. Great sound coming out of this channel when you turn that gain up a bit. But you can also back off your touch or back off your volume control and still get a nice clean tone. It's very touch responsive. With the volume all the way up on this channel, we're well into crunch territory. And it's even appropriate for playing a cleaner lead type tone where you want a nice breakup on the sound and nice sustain without it being fuzzy. Now let's switch over to the gain channel. I've got the input gain control set to about 9 o'clock or about 25%. The output volume control is set to 3 o'clock or about 75%, and I'm doing that to maximize the headroom and also to let those power tubes speak a little bit. I've got all three of the tone controls set to about 12 o'clock or the middle of their range, and the morph control is set to the British side of the Atlantic. Let's begin with the bridge pickup, and I'm going to roll the volume off a little bit to give you an idea of what it would sound like on stage if you were playing rhythm and then you go into a lead. Now at this amount of gain, we're going to be right in that classic rock territory. It's really responsive, yet it gives you a nice round warm tone with a lot of sustain. Now let's turn the gain control up to about 12 o'clock. That sound has a lot of nice pick attack, but there's a full thumping, crunching bottom end there as well. And again, it's very responsive to your volume control. If you roll back a little bit, the sound will clean up nicely. With the neck pickup, we get a round, singing, sustaining sound. Now let's move the gain control to 3 o'clock. We're well into high gain territory at this point. You can hear we've got loads of sustain there, lots and lots of gain. It's driving this cabinet well into resonance. We're getting a thumping bottom end out of it as well when we're playing rhythm. Really a nice sound for rock playing. Next up, let's check out full gain. For lead playing, we've got tons and tons of sustain. As you can hear, at full gain, you've got plenty of saturation, all the smooth sustain and gain that you need for playing leads, but it also gives you a nice, tight, crunching, articulate rhythm sound. Now I'm going to dial the gain back to about 12 o'clock, and let's listen to what happens as we change the morph control. Now the morph control is more effective when you have the mid-range either turned up or turned down, so I'm going to turn it up to about 2 o'clock, and let's listen to the difference there. I'm going to begin by playing the morph control on the American side, then I'll turn it to the British side, and then I'll set it to 12 o'clock so the two are blended evenly. So here's the American side. And here's the British side. And here we are at 12 o'clock. can hear there's a dramatic difference at the two extremes, full American or full British, but what's really cool is when you morph between those two, when you blend in the middle, and you get the characteristics of both sides of the Atlantic. Now, one last thing I want to demonstrate for you is that built-in power attenuator. It really makes a huge difference. We've been listening to it so far at 5 watts, or the full output power of the amplifier. So what I'm going to do is turn the volume all the way up, and then we'll switch down to 1 watt, and then do 1/10 of a watt. So here's our full output level. That's still a manageable volume level for many spaces, but probably too loud for practicing at home. Here's what it sounds like when you dial it back to 1 watt. It really drops the volume output substantially. This is a comfortable listening level for bedroom practice, even for a small rehearsal where you're not working with a drummer. But if you need to drop it even lower, we can go down to 1/10 of a watt. That's a very comfortable volume level, basically conversation level, and it's easily usable at home in a bedroom situation or where you don't want to annoy someone else who's in the house or in an apartment. If you're looking for a low-power amplifier that delivers everything from classic rock to high-gain tones, and that has extra features like that Infinium circuit for maintaining the consistency of your tubes, built-in effects loop, a line input for an external audio player, headphone output with an emulated speaker system, this amplifier really has a lot of great features, comes in at an incredible price, compact, lightweight, and it has that attenuator for practicing at home. Really a great value and a great sounding amplifier. I hope you've enjoyed this installment of Sweetwater's Guitars and Gear. Be sure to tune in next time. We'll have more guitars, more amps, more effects, and we'll be making lots of music. I'm Mitch Gallagher.